Hello, welcome to Oaks of Righteousness. We're doing teaching number 4 tonight, curses and generational sins. If you haven't picked up on this yet, most of the teachings are coupled because they go together hand in hand. Just like inner vows and bitter root judgments work together, curses and generational sins sometimes overlap and affect each other. Your leaders will cover curses in detail, but suffice it at present to say this. Adults in our lives can place us in heavy bondage by what they say to us when we're young. Even parents with the best intentions can put us in bondage because of words that they've spoken without ever intending to hurt us. It's part of living in a broken world. The truth of human experience is this. Whatever our parents or others in authority say to us flows in through our ears and it settles in our hearts. That is the truth of human experience. When you're a young kid and your parents are going through difficulties and having a really tough time, a young kid isn't old enough to process the things that are said to them by parents who are struggling themselves. So it comes into our ears when we're young, and whatever comes in from an authority figure will always settle in a child's heart. We can't see this with our eyes, obviously, but this is undoubtedly true. When a parent or another adult in authority speaks over us, it's either gold coming in through our ears and settling in our hearts, or it's ashes coming in through our ears and settling in our hearts. To quote one of my favorite musicians of all time, Neil Young, we're all searching for that heart of gold, which is the heart that God intends for us. But sadly, and again, through no intention of our parents sometimes, our heart is full of ashes instead. So there has to be some cleaning out to be done first. And another human truth is this. We push out of our mouth what comes into our ears. A curse or anything that has the effect of a curse that comes in through our ears, a small child pushes that out of their mouth eventually. So in effect, we push things out of our mouth and then we get refilled through our ears. It can be kind of like a cloud that hangs over us, and we can't really define it, but we know that it's there. Here's the thing that is serious, that we really need to consider seriously. Words are sacred to God. God spoke the world into existence. We know that. God spoke the world into existence. Words are sacred to God. And the truth is, the Bible tells us that we will each give an account of every careless word that we've spoken. So it is a very serious thing to God. It's not too big for God, but it's serious, and we need to know that. Curses and generational sins, like I said a few minutes ago, they go hand in hand. And there's a singer-songwriter. His name is Isaac Bruce. And he sings a song that's titled Trailer Trash. Now, obviously that's a stereotype. But again, stereotypes have the power of curses on people. Every kid that's ever grown up in a trailer park has heard that term, trailer trash. That has the effect of a curse on a kid. He writes a song about that, and the speaker in the song is in high school, is a teenager in high school. So this person has been living in this generational sin, curses being spoke over them. And part of the song goes like this, talking about his parents. Short love with a long divorce, and a couple of kids, of course. They don't mean anything. Now, the parents may not have ever told that child, you don't mean anything. But there are things that the parents say, and also things that parents do. There are nonverbal clues that can also curse us when we're young. I know that my mother had a way of rolling her eyes, and every time she rolled her eyes at me, what I heard was, "You're so stupid." That's actually what I heard, even though she never spoke it. And this kid here in this song is experiencing things similar to that. Another line says this: "We live in trailers with no class. My God, I hope I can pass. High school means nothing." That's how we rationalize dropping out of things, quitting things, because we haven't been taught that it's okay to make mistakes as long as we keep going forward. Feeling like we're failures when we make mistakes is one of the sure signs of curses that have been spoken over us. And the last part of the song, the speaker says, "Taking heartache with hard work. My God, I am such a jerk. I can't do anything." Again, maybe an adult never told this person, "You can't do anything," but there were things said, nonverbal clues given that caused this person to believe that they're a jerk and that they can't do anything, and that they are, and this is the worst part, this is the part that grieves God the most. This kid feels hopeless. And God is the God of hope. That's what grieves God the most, is people who have come to a place where they feel hopeless. Generational sins are pretty straightforward. We all know by the time we're adults that we take on the mindset, the belief systems of our parents. Sometimes even if we vow that we're not going to grow up to be like mom or dad, it's in our DNA. Generational sins, it's if a young man has a father who is unfaithful to his wife, that has a way, we all know this, that has a way of being transmitted to the next generation. It all becomes a cycle, and we've heard this before. This is not new information to us, but at some point, the cycle is going to continue until someone stops that cycle. It could be addictions. That is another common generational sin that gets passed down through the generations. And here's the tricky thing about generational sins. Both my parents were alcoholics, but I didn't become an alcoholic. But you know what? What was transmitted from my parents to me was an addictive personality. I became addicted to other things, other stimulus. It was transmitted to me. It's transmitted generationally. And if somebody doesn't stop that cycle, it just continues. In thinking about curses and generational sins and how they work together, I was reminded of a novel by Barbara Kingsolver. Her most famous novel is The Poisonwood Bible. which I recommend to anyone who likes novels of literary merit. But she also wrote a novel that's titled The Bean Trees. It illustrates this, I think, perfectly. In The Bean Trees, the main character is Taylor, and she's a teenager in rural Kentucky in the 1980s. A teenager in rural Kentucky in the 1980s. And in Taylor's little town, most of the girls end up pregnant and dropping out of high school. And Taylor she says, I'm not going to be one of those girls. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get out of this town. I'm going to get out of this town. Well, she's working at the hospital as a volunteer her senior year, and another high school girl comes into the emergency room. Her name is Jolene. Jolene's been shot by her husband, Newt Hardbine. And Taylor is the narrator in the novel. She says, everyone was a little bit surprised that Jolene ended up with Newt Hardbine, because them Hardbines, everybody knew they were no good, good for nothings. Just no good, good for nothings, never going to amount to anything. Sure enough, Newt got Jolene pregnant when she was in high school. She dropped out of school. She's married to Newt. Well, Newt had shot her before he shot himself. He killed himself, but he didn't kill her. So Jolene's in the hospital, and the main character, Taylor, the one who says, I'm not going to get stuck in this cycle. She's talking to Jolene, and she says, Jolene, why did you marry Newt anyway? And this is what Jolene says. This is from Barbara Kingsolver's novel. Jolene says, why not? My daddy'd been calling me a slut practically since I was 13, so why the hell not? Newt was just who it happened to be. You know the way it is. And then Taylor, the narrator, after that scene is over, the narrator says, her daddy called her that so much that she actually became one. I think that illustrates perfectly the power of curses and the power of generational sins, and how once we get caught up in the cycle or the whirlwind, someone has to stop it or it just continues. Once again, your leaders have some questions about curses and generational sins, and they're going to go over curses in more detail with you. Have a good discussion, and my prayer is that God will reveal to you what it is that you need to know, and the Holy Spirit will give you the courage to embark on that trail of healing. Thank you.